The journey of knowing thyself begins in the cradle and ends in the grave. One way to capture those moments of ourself can be found in the shelf. Shelves have been around since the creation of ancient scrolls. My name is Dr. Walter Hidalgo, and I'm a father, teacher, world traveler, and coach. Join me as we explore together the stories of our shelves. This is Know Thyself.
Watch this.
Peace, 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 beautiful family. This is Dr. Walter Hidalgo, and I'm your most humbled host. And this is episode number 23, the Jordan number. Alright? And this is the Know Thyself podcast. The Know Thyself podcast utilizes the metaphor of the shelf to basically extrapolate the self. Welcome. As we celebrate our country's birth, it's definitely a time of reflection. I think as a society, as a people, as a whole, as humans occupying this space in this side of the planet, I always take the time to reflect on my birthday. It's our country's birthday. There's been a lot of crying. Our country's been crying a lot. So let's take that into consideration. But there's also been a lot of joy. I also want to say a big shout out to Ohio, because we are live from Ohio today, yo. Something special about Ohio, yo. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I just want to say shout out to Columbus, to Cleveland, to Cincinnati. Shout out to Youngstown. I know a lot of people's, from Ohio. Yo, shout out to my boy Dave. He's a doctor engineer for Ohio State University. That's my brother. But so many friends and family. So shout out to Ohio, yo. I also want to, as always we do in the Know Thyself podcast, we like to shout someone or some situation going on. And right now, I want to give a big shout out to all the administrators, the personal assistance people, the people that are holding down HR. You know what I'm talking about, yo. The people that pay us, yo. The people that organize us. If you yourself are an entrepreneur or own a business or a part of a corporation, you understand that HR, the admins, they are the spine of, the back. The most important piece of this image that we're trying to create, this infrastructure and trajectory of our life. So speaking on that, it's a great segue to get into this short segment today that I think is important. Maybe for some, it'll be a good reminder, if you will. But as we transition back to quote unquote normalcy, I think it's important that we still maintain a level of consistency and accountability in our lives. It's important that I stay on my P's and Q's, because one slip, that young person's gonna check you, and young people will always check you. So this is about scheduling. We're gonna talk about scheduling. And as always, I wanna provide some tangible things that you can take from this very small conversation that I'm gonna speak on. And it's really I don't wanna sound preachy, but the reality is that I would not be where I am, and I would not be who I am if it wasn't for scheduling and planning my life. In life, it's very important to organize yourself, because if not, you will find those pit holes and loopholes in your life, those aha moments that go, wow, if I did it this way, or if I planned it right, I could have prevented something from happening. And the act of using your foresight to show you something that could be prevented, that's another way of describing wisdom. So in planning and in processing, because when you plan, you process. And when you're processing a plan, you're using a different side of your brain. And that allows for room for creativity as well. Believe it or not, Because when I say flexible schedule, excuse me, I'm referring to having a flexible schedule. All right, and I think one of my good friends, Brandon, who's a youth minister and a father and an MC from the Bronx. Shout out to the X, as always. We here. He has a few words of advice that he would like to share with us regarding having a schedule.
One of the major things for me is I've held on to this one thought that my old spiritual director, Father Martin Esqueda, used to always say. Father Martin is now in Rome, but I've kept this with me. He would always say, your schedule frees you. And what he meant by that is by being very, very intentional about your time and making sure you have a well-balanced, day, week, etc. You can, you can kind of let go. Sometimes we get attached to projects or things or whatever the case is, but we can kind of really be free in just being progressive, right? And allowing the schedule to work with that. And so for me, like many of us, we're working from home. Like I'm literally here in my son's bedroom right now, but I have to sit here. I have to edit stuff. There's times I have to get on Zoom calls and other conferences, right? There's times where I'm like planning. There's times where I'm doing all these different things, but I also got to make sure I schedule intentional time for family time, for my prayer time, the time where I'm going to get in the scripture. I'm going to sit kind of in silence and meditate. And what's important for me is every day making sure I get physical and active. So just, different workout routines, whether it be push-ups, pull-ups, whatever I can do here with the equipment that I have since gyms are closed, right? And so I want to encourage you guys during this time to try and find that balance in your day. Try and find that balance in your routine and stick to it as much as possible so that all of you, body, mind, soul, and spirit, can be fed. That's all I got. Peace.
Word. Shout out to my brother B the Symbol. Check him out. And what he said is very important and valid. And as I said, I want to provide, this is a short episode, and I want to provide one tangible thing that you can do at home. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, whatever it is you're doing in your life, you have to plan and organize and allow that schedule to guide you toward the next phase in your life. Because the reality is, we never stop planning. Planning is part of our DNA. It's what focuses us. So I want to provide you something to help you work smarter, not harder. So remember, when you're trying to create a schedule, be smart. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time. SMART. Let's break each one of those down. Be specific about what it is you're going to do. For who? For what? Where? Right? If you're starting your own business or you're trying to stop an addiction or whatever, you really need to plan that out. Why are you doing this? I think that's very important. Don't just do something for the sake of it. If you want to do it just to learn as a hobby, that's a different situation. I'm not talking about a hobby. A hobby's on your time, like for real your time. But when you're talking about being specific and attaining and achieving a goal, for who, what, and where? Where are you doing this, right? Is it in a building? Are you going to be working from home? And this is ill with the situations that we went through with COVID, because then it starts bringing up, very specific scenarios and situations about your planning. The M, measurable. I think it's very important as somebody that has been in the academic world for so long. Everything's about quantifying, and I think it's important that, we measure how often we need to do something or when we need to step back, right? Measuring what worked, what didn't work is so important. What I learned in life is there's a lot of things I'm not good at, and that's a humbleness, but it's an empowering thing, because I look at it more like I'm proud of that person. I'm like in awe when I see someone that can do something that I can't, and we're working together to achieve the same goal. That's pretty dope. That's what you call a team. That's what you call the community. Attainable. Is this achievable? If you are looking to save, stop hunger by the end of the year, probably not attainable. So the attainable piece is like, is this something that you can do within a month? Is this something that you can start slowly and build your way up kind of situation? Some people are very dope and they say the next day I'm not going to drink anymore, or I'm not going to binge anymore, I'm not going to do this anymore, and they completely stop. That's dope. But relapses come in and triggers, and it's deeper too on a psychological level, because we have to, and this leads to our part of the SMART, which is be realistic about what we're trying to do. Is what I'm doing something that is important for me to achieve? Is it something that I'm doing for myself or maybe for someone else? It answers that why question. Why are you doing this? I find myself more when I'm working and do anything now as I'm getting quote unquote older, because your boy don't feel old or look old, you know what I mean? But I'm there. But I always ask myself, why am I doing this? And the more you ask yourself every single day, why am I doing this? It just opens up something in your soul. It's like you're peeling your soul. You're telling yourself, like, all right, if this is not something I feel ready for or prepared to do right now, let it go and let me go back to it. Or I'm doing this because I really see this happening in my life, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. That's very real. So you have to be very realistic. And the last one is time. I've said this over and over and over again, family. I cannot stress this enough. And maybe it hits me a little bit hard because for some reason I feel like I'm in the halfway mark in my life, like literally my lifespan, right? Some people live to 80 and 100. I'm going into 40 soon. It's crazy. And I value time. Every single thing that I do in my life, I don't want it to feel in vain or wasted. Time is spiritual. Time is the tick-tock in your life reminding you, wow, maybe I could have done it differently. Wow, do I need to pivot and shift? When it comes to planning, you need to be intentional about your when. When do I plan on accomplishing this? Because if this is a 2-year thing, let me put it to you like this. When I was starting my doctoral program, I'll never forget what Dr. Lundy said to my cohort, right? They said, this is going to be, if you stick to this, you can do this in 4 years. But not many people do that, because within that time, someone's going to get married. Someone's going to get divorced. Someone's going to receive some bad news on a health condition. And just started saying, like, we have to be honest with yourself. You have to be flexible with your schedule, but be realistic about it. Because time determines it all. Time determines how really hungry are you for this. All right, family, be smart. Again, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time. Write it down on a piece of paper. Create this sort of Excel sheet, this document that's living. Put it somewhere in your room and remind yourself, again, that why. Why am I doing this? And be specific, be measurable. How do I measure it? Is it attainable? Is it realistic for my life? And will I be consistent and hold it down with time? Because you have to be ready. I remember hearing it from someone, like, you have to be ready when you receive that phone call, and what you thought was going to be a 2-year process turns into a year. Are you ready, yo? That's very real. Plan your dreams. That's the way I say it. This is the way I want to wrap it up. I think everything that we do in our life is a building block that's leading us to who we will become. And every single thing that we're doing is part of the plan, part of God's master plan. You understand? So no matter what's happening, have a plan, but be flexible with it. And know that with every single thing that you check off your list, you see it and you feel it, and it gives you that sense of accomplishment. And if you didn't finish it all that day, do it the next day. Write it down, measure it, and even ask yourself, why is it that I didn't do it that day? Was I tired? Was I depressed? Was I angry? Where did that trigger come from that is preventing me from continuing to stick to the plan? All right, family, to close us off, as we always do, with a quote. And it's from an anonymous person, and it reads as such: don't call it a dream, call it a plan. I agree. Peace, family.
The stress on the brain, I gotta maintain. I keep living like this, I might lose it. The stress on the brain, I gotta maintain.